The chamber was older than most civilizations. Its walls stretched upward into darkness, and the ceiling disappeared somewhere beyond where eyes could see. Thousands of seats arranged in perfect circles filled the space, each one carved from a different material, each one representing a different world. The light came from everywhere and nowhere, soft and golden, making every surface glow with quiet importance. Ambassador Jakral of the Vex Dominion stood at the speaker's platform. His scales caught the light as he moved, flashing deep purple and silver. He was tall, even for his species, and his voice carried the weight of authority that came from 3 centuries of service to the Council. Honored members, he began, his voice amplified by technology so ancient that no one remembered who had built it. We gather today to address a matter that has troubled this council for 200 years. A matter of disrespect, a matter of arrogance. Around the chamber, representatives from hundreds of worlds shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward with interest. Others whispered to their aides. The Lumari delegation, seated in the oldest section of the chamber, remained perfectly still. I speak, of course, of the humans, Jakral continued. He gestured with one clawed hand, and a hologram appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed a seat empty and waiting. The nameplate beneath it read, Earth. For 2 centuries this seat has remained vacant. 2 centuries of silence. 2 centuries of ignored invitations and unanswered communications. The humans achieved faster than light travel in their year 2147. We welcomed them, as we have welcomed every species that reached for the stars. We offered them membership in this ancient body. We offered them the wisdom of 10,000 years of galactic civilization. Jakral's voice grew harder. They refused. Not with explanation, not with negotiation. They simply said no and turned away. Since then, they have built their colonies in isolation. They trade with fringe worlds that do not respect council authority. They ignore our regulations. They act as if we do not exist. A murmur ran through the chamber. Representative Cathar of the Zenthi Collective stood, his forearms spread wide. Perhaps they need more time. Young species often struggle with the complexity of galactic society. Time? Jakral's laugh was sharp. They have had 200 years. In that time, they have established over 300 colonies. They have developed their own trade networks. They have even created their own faster-than-light technology that does not use our jump gates. This is not confusion or fear. This is deliberate rejection. From the ancient Lumari section, a voice spoke. It was quiet, but it cut through every other sound in the chamber. Perhaps, Ambassador Jakral, you should ask yourself why that troubles you so deeply. Every eye turned to Elder Matriarch Selvine. She was old beyond measure, her form crystalline and slowly shifting colors like deep water under moonlight. The Lumari had been among the first species to join the council, back when it had only 5 members instead of 500. Jakral bowed his head slightly, showing respect despite his irritation. Elder Matriarch, humanity's rejection undermines the very foundation of this council. For 10,000 years, every species that achieved faster-than-light travel has sought us out. Every species has recognized that they need guidance, protection, and the structure that only the Council can provide. Every species but one, Selvine said softly. Exactly my point. I wonder if you understand what that means. The chamber fell silent. Selvine rose slowly from her seat. When she moved, light seemed to move with her, creating patterns in the air that hurt to look at directly. I am old, she said. I have sat in this chamber for 3,000 years. I have watched 400 species take their seats here. I have watched them arrive nervous and hopeful, seeking acceptance among the stars. Do you know what I have never seen? No one answered. I have never seen a species that did not need us. Not until now. Ambassador Jakral's scales darkened. You suggest that humanity's arrogance is somehow admirable? I suggest that it is not arrogance. I suggest that we may have forgotten an important truth about ourselves. Selvine gestured to the empty seat. Every species that has come to us has done so out of need. Need for technology they could not develop alone. Need for protection from threats they could not face alone. Need for validation that they deserved a place among the stars. She paused, and her next words fell like stones into still water. What does it mean when a species does not need us? The question hung in the air. Representative Talora of the Mandari Federation spoke up, her voice uncertain. Perhaps they are simply primitive. Perhaps they do not understand what they are missing. Then why do their colonies thrive? Selvine asked. Why does their technology advance? Why do independent traders speak of human goods with respect? Why do the fringe worlds welcome human merchants? Because they are too ignorant to know better, Chakral snapped. Then he caught himself, softening his tone. Forgive me, Elder Matriarch, but surely you see the danger here. If humanity can simply ignore the Council without consequence, what message does that send to other species? What if others begin to question whether they need us? For a moment, something that might have been amusement flickered across Selvine's crystalline features. Perhaps that would not be the worst question they could ask. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded that humanity be brought to heel. Others suggested increased diplomatic efforts. A few, very few, sat quietly and thought about what Selvine had said. Finally, Chakral raised his voice above the chaos. I call for a vote. I propose that we send a delegation to human space. Not to invite them again, not to negotiate, but to investigate. We need to understand what humanity truly is. Are they a threat? Are they fools? Or are they something else entirely? And if they refuse to meet with us? Representative Cathar asked. Then we will have our answer about their intentions. The vote was called. One by one, the representatives signaled their decision. The holographic display tallied the results. 437 in favor, 52 against, 11 abstaining. The delegation would be sent. Selvine watched the vote with ancient eyes. She knew something that the others did not. Something she had learned over 3 millennia of watching species rise and fall. The Council had become comfortable in its role as gatekeeper. Every species that arrived at these doors arrived looking up, asking permission to enter the Great Hall of Galactic Civilization. But what happened when someone walked past the door without looking back? What happened when someone built their own hall? The meeting concluded, and the representatives filed out, already planning the delegation and debating who would be sent. Chakral remained at the speaker's platform, staring at the empty seat. You seem troubled, Ambassador, Selvine said, approaching him. I am concerned for the future of the Council, Elder Matriarch. Are you? Or are you concerned that the Council might discover it is not as necessary as it has always believed? Chakral turned to her, his scales shifting through shades of purple that indicated confusion and anger. You have served this body for longer than my entire species has existed. How can you speak of it with such doubt? Because I love it enough to question it. Selvine looked at the empty seat. For 10,000 years we have told ourselves a story. We have said that we are the light that guides young species to civilization. We have said that we are essential. But what if we have had it backward all along? I do not understand. We did not lift species up, Ambassador. They lifted themselves. They reached the stars on their own. They developed the technology on their own. They built their societies on their own. All we did was offer them a place to gather and talk. That is not nothing, but it is not everything either. Then what are the humans? Selvine was quiet for a long moment. They are the first species to understand that truth before arriving at our door. And I think they are going to teach us a great deal about ourselves, whether we want to learn it or not. She left the chamber, her form fading into light as she walked. Chakral stood alone, looking at the empty seat. It had been empty for 200 years, but somehow it felt more present now than ever before. In the silence of the ancient chamber, with only the soft golden light for company, he wondered if Selvine was right. He wondered if humanity's absence was not an insult but a mirror that showed the Council something it had never wanted to see. That thought troubled him more than any amount of human arrogance ever could. The delegation would be chosen within the week. 5 species, representing 5 different philosophies and 5 different approaches to galactic civilization. They would travel to human space. They would find answers. But as Chakral stood in that ancient chamber, staring at that empty seat, he found himself afraid of what those answers might be. Not because humanity might be hostile, not because they might be dangerous, but because they might be right. The seat remained empty. The nameplate still read Earth, and somewhere, out beyond the jump gates and the trade routes and the carefully maintained borders of Council space, humanity built their colonies and lived their lives and never once thought about the invitation they had declined. They had reached for the stars and found them within reach. They had not needed permission. They had not needed validation. They had simply needed themselves. And that, more than anything else, was what the Council could not understand. Not yet, The delegation ship emerged from the jump gate at the edge of what the council maps designated as human space. The 5 representatives stood on the bridge looking at the viewport with varying degrees of curiosity and concern. Ambassador Jacral was there, of course. He had insisted on leading the delegation personally. Beside him stood Representative Cathar of the Zenthi Collective, his forearms crossed in what his species considered a neutral posture. Elder Matriarch Selvine had come as well, despite her age and the difficulty of travel. The other 2 were Commander Vrix, a military officer from the Thexian Armada, and Scholar Pelmi, a young but brilliant researcher from the Qualix Institute. Initial scans are complete, the ship's pilot announced. She was Zenthi, like Cathar, and her voice carried professional detachment. We are detecting 17 human vessels within sensor range. None are approaching us. In fact, they seem to be ignoring us entirely. Ignoring us? Jacral's scales rippled with irritation. We transmitted our diplomatic credentials and our intention to meet with human leadership. Yes, Ambassador. We received an automated response directing us to submit a formal meeting request through something called the Human Colonial Administration. The message included coordinates for their central office, an automated response. Jacral's voice was flat. They could not even be bothered to reply personally. Perhaps they are simply efficient, Cathar suggested. Many species use automated systems for initial contact. Scholar Pelmi was studying her datapad, her large eyes growing wider as she read. Ambassador, I am picking up something strange. According to our sensors, there are over 40 human colonies within this sector alone. That is far more than our intelligence suggested. 40? Commander Vrix moved to look at her screen. His species was built for war, large and armored, but his voice carried genuine surprise. Our last survey of this region showed perhaps a dozen human settlements. Our last survey was 50 years ago, Selvine said quietly. Clearly they have been busy. The ship moved deeper into human space following the coordinates from the automated message. What they saw along the way challenged everything they thought they knew about humanity. The first colony they passed was built on a moon orbiting a gas giant. It was small but clearly thriving. Lights twinkled across its surface in patterns that suggested cities. Ships came and went from orbital docks carrying goods and passengers. That is a mining colony, Pelmi said, reading her sensors. They are extracting rare elements from the gas giant's atmosphere. The efficiency rating is remarkable. Check their technology, Jacral ordered. Are they using Council standard equipment? A pause. No, Ambassador. The designs are completely different. Not primitive, just different. In some ways, they appear to be more advanced than our own methods. The pilot took them past 3 more colonies before reaching their destination. Each one was unique. One was an agricultural world with vast green fields visible from orbit. Another was clearly focused on research, with massive telescope arrays pointed at the stars. The third was a manufacturing hub, surrounded by a cloud of automated construction drones. They are not struggling, Cathar said softly. We expected to find a young species barely maintaining their colonies. Instead, we find this. This is impossible, Commander Vrix growled. It takes centuries for a species to develop this level of infrastructure. We gave the Thexian Armada 300 years of council support before we could sustain even 50 colonies. Perhaps humanity is simply faster learners, Selvine suggested, though her tone made it clear she was thinking something else entirely. Their destination was a space station orbiting a blue and green planet. The planet was beautiful, with 3 moons and rings of ice that caught the sunlight. The station itself was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Ships from a dozen different species were docked there, none of them council members. Look at that, Pelmi breathed. They are trading with the fringe worlds, the independent colonies, species that the council has not even contacted yet. Illegal trade, Jacral said sharply. They are undermining council commerce regulations. Only if they were members of the council, Cathar pointed out. Which they are not. The delegation docked without incident. The station's systems interfaced smoothly with their ship, and the docking clamps engaged with practiced precision. A human was waiting for them as they disembarked. She was small compared to most of the delegation, perhaps 1.5 meters tall, with dark skin and hair pulled back in a practical style. She wore simple clothing that seemed to be standard for her species. Nothing ceremonial or formal. Welcome to New Singapore Station, she said in perfect galactic common. Her accent was strange, but her grammar was flawless. My name is Director Chen Wei. I serve as the liaison for the Human Colonial Administration. I understand you requested a meeting? Jacrel drew himself up to his full height, towering over the small human. I am Ambassador Jacrel of the Vex Dominion, representing the Galactic Council. We have traveled far to speak with human leadership about a matter of great importance. Of course, Chen smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Jacrel pause. It was not nervous or awed. It was simply polite. Please follow me. I have arranged a conference room for our discussion. They walked through the station, and the delegation could not help but stare. The corridors were clean and well-maintained. Humans moved past them with barely a glance, busy with their own tasks. More surprising were the aliens they saw. Members of a dozen different species, all moving freely through what was clearly a human facility. You allow other species here? Commander Vrix asked. Of course, Chen said, as if the question was strange. New Singapore is a trade hub. We welcome anyone who comes in peace and follows station regulations. But these species are not council members, Pelmy said carefully. You do not worry about security? Chen looked back at her, genuine curiosity on her face. Why would we worry? They are traders and travelers just like anyone else. What matters is that they follow the rules while they are here, not where they come from. The conference room was simple but comfortable. There was a table large enough for all of them, with chairs adjusted for each species' physiology. Someone had done their research. Refreshments were provided, appropriate for each delegation member's biology. You know our species well, Cathar observed, settling into his chair with visible relief. We like to be good hosts, Chen said simply. Once everyone was seated, Jacrel began. He had prepared this speech carefully. Director Chen, the Galactic Council has maintained peace and prosperity across the galaxy for 10,000 years. We represent 500 species, billions of worlds, and trillions of citizens. When your species achieved faster than light travel 2 centuries ago, we welcomed you as we have welcomed every species that reached the stars. Chen nodded, listening. You declined our invitation. Since then, you have ignored all attempts at communication. You have built your civilization in isolation from the galactic community. We have come to ask why, and to extend once more the offer of council membership. There was a pause. Chen looked genuinely puzzled. I am sorry, Ambassador, but I think there might be some confusion. We did not decline out of hostility. We simply did not see the need for membership. Did not see the need? Jacrel's scales flashed bright purple. The Council offers protection, technology exchange, access to the Jumpgate network, trade agreements with hundreds of worlds. How can you not see the need? Well, Chen said slowly, as if trying to explain something obvious. We already have protection. Our defense fleet is quite capable. We have our own technology that works very well for our needs. We developed our own faster-than-light drives, so we do not need jump gates. And as for trade, we have agreements with 47 different species already. The delegation stared at her. You have your own drives for faster-than-light travel? Pelmy asked. May I ask what principle they operate on? Quantum tunneling through folded spacetime, Chen said. It is a bit different from your jump gate system, but it works well enough. A bit slower for very long distances, but much more flexible. 47 trade partners? Cathar's forearms gestured in surprise. That is more than some council members have. Is it? I would not know. We tend to trade with whoever offers good value and honest dealings. Many of the independent colonies produce excellent goods. Jacrel felt something he had not expected. Confusion. This was not going according to plan. Director Chen, do you not understand what the Council represents? We are the foundation of galactic civilization. We maintain order among the stars. I am sure you do important work, Chen said politely. But respectfully, Ambassador, we have order without needing to join your organization. Our colonies are peaceful. Our trade is fair. Our people are happy. What would council membership add to that? Legitimacy, Jacrel said flatly. Recognition. A place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Now Chen's expression changed slightly. For the first time, something that might have been annoyance flickered across her face. Ambassador, we do not need anyone to recognize us or grant us legitimacy. We exist, we build, we trade, we explore. We do not require permission to do these things. But every species seeks validation from the Council, Jacrel insisted. It is the natural order of things. Perhaps for them, Chen said gently, but not for us. Elder Matriarch Selvine spoke for the first time since entering the room. Tell me, Director Chen, when your species first achieved faster-than-light travel, what was your first thought? Your first goal? Chen smiled, and this time it was warm and genuine. To see what was out there. To find new worlds. To meet other species. To learn and grow and explore. Not to seek approval from established powers? Why would we need approval to explore? The universe does not belong to anyone. It is there for everyone. Selvine made a sound that might have been laughter in her crystalline form. Jakrel, do you understand now? Understand what? He was angry and confused and feeling something he could not quite name. They do not think they need us because they truly do not need us. And it never occurred to them to pretend otherwise. Chen looked between them, clearly uncertain about what was happening. Have I said something wrong? No, Selvine said. You have said something very right. Something that we needed to hear, even if we did not know it. Commander Vrix cleared his throat. Director Chen, may I ask a military question? If a hostile power attacked one of your colonies, what would you do? Defend it, Chen said simply. Without council support? Without the council fleet? We have our own fleet. It is not as large as yours, probably, but it is sufficient for our needs. We have never looked for fights, but we are quite capable of protecting ourselves. The delegation exchanged glances. This was not the young, vulnerable species they had expected to find. This was something else entirely. May we tour your facilities? Pelmy asked. I would very much like to learn about your technology and methods. Of course, Chen said, standing. I would be happy to show you around. We have nothing to hide. As they left the conference room, Jakrel found himself walking beside Selvine. They truly do not understand what they are missing, he said quietly. Or, Selvine replied, they understand perfectly well, and they have decided they are not missing anything at all. The tour that followed would challenge everything the delegation thought they knew about how species developed in the galaxy. But in that moment, in that simple conference room, the first crack had appeared in their understanding. Humanity had not rejected the Council out of pride or ignorance. They had simply looked at what the Council offered and realized they already had everything they needed. And they had gotten it all by themselves. Director Chen led them through New Singapore Station, with the ease of someone who had done this before. The delegation followed, each member processing what they were seeing in their own way. This section is residential, Chen explained as they walked past rows of windows looking into comfortable living spaces. Humans of all ages moved about inside, some alone, some in family groups. We house about 50,000 permanent residents here, plus another 20,000 temporary visitors and traders at any given time. Temporary visitors from where? Pelmy asked, her datapad constantly recording. All over. We get a lot of traffic from the independent colonies. Some council species stop by too, though not officially. Chen smiled slightly. Traders do not always ask permission from their governments before seeking better deals. Commander Vrix stopped at a window showing a training facility. Inside, humans were practicing what looked like combat techniques. You train your civilians in fighting? We encourage everyone to learn basic self-defense and emergency procedures, Chen said. Not because we expect trouble, but because being prepared makes people feel secure. Self-reliance is important to us. Self-reliance, Jakrel repeated the word like he was tasting something bitter. Is that why you refuse help from the Council? Chen turned to face him fully. Ambassador, we are not refusing help. We are simply not asking for it. There is a difference. They continued walking, and Cathar gestured with two of his arms at a group of aliens chatting with humans near a food court. You seem very comfortable with other species. Yet you avoid formal diplomatic relations with the Council. We are not avoiding anyone, Chen said patiently. We just do not see the need for formal membership in an organization that does not serve our interests. We trade with Council species all the time. Individual relationships, ship to ship, colony to colony. Why do we need a government body to approve that? Because without structure there is chaos, Jakrel said firmly. Is there? Chen gestured around them. Does this look like chaos to you? It did not. The station ran smoothly. Different species mixed without apparent conflict. The systems hummed with efficiency. There was a feeling of busy purpose that reminded Selvine of the Council chambers at their best, but without the layers of bureaucracy and protocol. They entered a manufacturing section next. Massive machines built smaller machines in a dance of precision and coordination. Humans worked alongside robots, each doing what they did best. Our manufacturing philosophy is different from Council standard, Chen explained. We focus on modularity and adaptability. Rather than building one perfect design, we build systems that can be modified for different needs. Pelmy studied the machines with fascination. This is brilliant. Less efficient in pure output perhaps, but far more flexible. You can retool these factories in days instead of months. Exactly. When you build 300 colonies in 200 years, flexibility matters more than perfection. 300 colonies, Commander Vrix repeated. How it takes massive resources and coordination. Most species need council support to maintain even half that number. Chen led them to an observation deck that looked out at the planet below. Would you like to hear about Earth? About how we got here? Please, Selvine said softly. Chen gazed at the stars for a moment before speaking. When we first developed faster-than-light travel, it was chaos. Every nation on Earth wanted to claim territory. Every corporation wanted to exploit new resources. There was fighting, both political and occasionally military. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we ever left our home system. The delegation listened in silence. But we learned. We created the Colonial Charter, an agreement that said no one owned the stars. Resources would be shared. Colonies would be independent but cooperative. Anyone could start a colony if they had the resources and the will. And most importantly, no central authority would control everything. Anarchy, Jacral muttered. Freedom, Chen corrected. There is a difference. We have laws, but they are simple laws agreed upon by everyone. Do not harm others. Do not take what is not yours. Honor your agreements. Keep your colonies sustainable. Beyond that, people are free to build the lives they want. But who enforces these laws? Commander Vrix asked. We all do. Each colony has its own security force. The colonial administration coordinates between colonies. If someone breaks the laws badly enough, they lose the right to trade and travel between colonies. Social pressure works well enough for most things. Cathar made a thoughtful gesture with his arms. This is similar to how my species governed ourselves before joining the council. But we found that as we grew larger, we needed more structure. Perhaps we will too someday, Chen admitted. But right now what we have works for us. We are not opposed to structure. We just do not want structure imposed from outside. They moved to a research section next. Here, scientists from multiple species worked together on various projects. Pelmy practically vibrated with excitement at the sight of the laboratories. You allow aliens to work in your research facilities? She asked. Of course. Good ideas come from everywhere. Why would we limit ourselves? Chen gestured to a lab where a human and a four-armed alien were examining something under a microscope together. That is Dr. Rodriguez and researcher Tilak. They are working on a new medical technique that combines human bioengineering with Tilak's species' understanding of cellular regeneration. Neither could do it alone. But you are sharing your technology with non-council species, Jacral said. You realize that could be dangerous? Why would it be dangerous? Knowledge is not a weapon unless you make it one. We share what we learn and others share with us. Everyone benefits. You are naive, Jacral said bluntly. There are hostile species in the galaxy, ones that would use your openness against you. Chen's expression hardened slightly. We are not naive, Ambassador. We are careful. We just do not believe in hoarding knowledge out of fear. And if hostile species come, we will deal with them. Elder Matriarch Selvine had been quiet for most of the tour, but now she spoke. Director Chen, when the Council first contacted humanity 200 years ago, what did you think of us? Chen considered the question carefully. The records say that our leaders at the time were excited at first. Contact with an ancient galactic civilization seemed like a dream come true. But then you sent us your membership requirements. And we realized that joining the Council meant giving up much of what made us who we were. We would have to restructure our governments to match Council standards, adopt Council technology even when ours worked fine, submit to a 50-year evaluation period where you would judge whether we were worthy, agree to let the Council decide which colonies we could establish and where. Chen turned to face the delegation directly. We looked at all of that and asked ourselves a simple question. Why? Why did we need permission to exist in the galaxy? Why did we need to prove ourselves worthy to people who did not know us? Why should we give up our independence for the privilege of a seat in your chamber? And you found no good answers, Selvine said. We found no answers at all. So we politely declined and continued building the civilization we wanted. Not the one you wanted us to have. Jacral's scales rippled with frustration. You make it sound as if the Council is some kind of trap. Not a trap, Chen said gently. More like a cage. A comfortable, safe cage that promises protection and belonging, but still a cage. And we prefer to be free. Freedom without guidance leads to disaster, Jacral insisted. Does it? We have been free for 200 years. Where is the disaster? The question hung in the air. Jacral had no answer. Cathar stepped forward. Director Chen, may I ask a personal question? Do you ever feel isolated? Alone out here without the support of the galactic community? Chen smiled. We are not alone. We have each other. 300 colonies full of humans who share a common purpose. We have trade partners from dozens of species. We have friends among the independent worlds. We have everything we need. But you could have more, Pelmy said softly. Access to council databases, 10,000 years of accumulated knowledge, technologies that could improve your lives. And what would we have to give up for that? Chen asked. Our independence? Our way of life? The freedom to make our own mistakes and learn from them. She shook her head. Thank you, but no. We would rather learn slowly on our own than quickly at the cost of who we are. They returned to the conference room after the tour. The delegation was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Chen provided more refreshments and waited patiently for them to speak. Finally, it was Selvine who broke the silence. You do not seek our approval because you do not need it. You do not need it because you have learned to approve of yourselves. Chen looked at the ancient alien with respect. That is one way to put it, yes. We define our own worth. We do not wait for others to tell us we are good enough. Arrogance, Jacral muttered. Confidence, Chen replied. There is a difference. Commander Vrix leaned forward. And if we offered you membership with no conditions? No evaluation period, no restructuring, full rights immediately? I would have to ask what you get out of it. The Council does not give things away for free. We get the benefit of human innovation and trade. We get to include a successful species in our community. Chen thought about it. Maybe someday we will be interested. But right now, honestly, we do not see what we would gain that we do not already have. We can trade without membership. We can innovate without permission. We can grow without oversight. What would membership give us besides a seat in a chamber very far away? Legitimacy, Jacral said again. We have legitimacy. We exist, we thrive. We do not need a piece of paper or a seat in your council to make that true. Pelmy was reviewing her notes, her large eyes thoughtful. I think I understand now. You do not hate the council. You do not fear it. You simply do not see yourselves as needing it. It is not relevant to your lives. Exactly, Chen said, pleased that someone was getting it. It is not personal. The council serves its members well, I am sure, but we are not looking for what it offers. Cathar made a gesture that in his species indicated deep thought. On my world we have an old saying, a fish does not ask the bird for permission to swim. I think humans are like that fish. You swim in your element naturally, without needing anyone to teach you how. That is a good way to put it, Chen agreed. Jacral stood abruptly. I have heard enough. Director Chen, thank you for your hospitality. We will return to the council with our report. Of course, Ambassador. Will you be recommending anything specific? That is for the council to decide. As the delegation prepared to leave, Selvine lingered behind. She placed one crystalline hand on the table, the gesture surprisingly gentle. Director Chen, I am 3,000 years old. I have watched hundreds of species join the council. Every single one came to us seeking something they felt they lacked. You are the first to come seeking nothing at all. Is that wrong? Chen asked. No, Selvine said softly. It is terrifying. Because if you do not need us, then perhaps no one really does. Perhaps they only think they need us because we convinced them they did. Chen reached out and gently touched the elder's crystalline hand. Or perhaps they needed you then, but they would not need you now. Maybe the council's greatest success is not in keeping members, but in helping them reach a point where they can stand on their own. Selvine was silent for a long moment. That is a more generous interpretation than we deserve. But I thank you for it. Safe travels, Elder. You are always welcome here. The delegation left New Singapore Station and began the journey back to council space. Behind them, the station continued its busy life. Humans and aliens traded goods and stories. Ships came and went. Children played in parks under artificial skies. And somewhere, in a small office, Director Chen Wei sat down and wrote a brief report to the Colonial Administration. Met with Galactic Council delegation today. They offered membership again. Declined politely. They seemed confused about why. Doubt they will understand anytime soon. Recommend we continue as we are. She filed the report and moved on to other tasks. There were supplies to order, ships to schedule, and a dozen small crises to manage. The Council's approval or disapproval did not matter. It never had. Humanity was too busy living to worry about what others thought of their existence. The delegation ship was 3 days into its return journey when the emergency signal came through. Commander Vrix was the first to hear it, his military training making him alert to such things even in sleep. Ambassador Jakral, you need to see this, he called from the bridge. The rest of the delegation assembled quickly. On the main view screen, a distress signal pulsed in standard galactic common. The message was brief and urgent. This is Mining Colony New Vancouver, human territory. We are under attack. 3 Vex Dominion warships have entered our space and are threatening to destroy our facilities. Request immediate assistance. Jakral's scales went pale, then flushed dark purple with anger. Vex Dominion. But that is my own people. This must be a mistake. Pulling up tactical data now, the pilot said. Her forearms moved across multiple control panels. Confirmed. 3 Vex warships on aggressive approach to a human mining colony. They are broadcasting a message. Play it, Jakral commanded. A Vex commander appeared on screen. He was younger than Jakral, his scales bright with the confidence of someone who had never faced real opposition. Human colonists, you have built your facility in space claimed by the Vex Dominion. You have 1 hour to evacuate before we destroy your equipment and seize this territory for proper use. This is your only warning. The message cut off. Claimed by the Vex Dominion. Cathar's forearms spread in confusion. I checked the territorial charts. This system is not claimed by anyone. It was not, Jakral said quietly. But I recognize that commander. He is from a radical faction that believes humanity's refusal of the Council is a sign of weakness. They have been arguing that the Vex should expand into human space, taking territory that humanity cannot properly defend. But you are here with us, Pelmy said. How did they know to act now? They did not know. They have been planning this for some time, I suspect. The timing is just unfortunate. Jakral's scales shifted through shades of purple that indicated shame and anger. I must contact them immediately and order them to stand down. That will take too long, Commander Vrix said, studying the tactical display. We are 4 hours away at best speed. The human colony only has 1 hour. Then they will have to evacuate, Jakral said. It is regrettable, but there is no other option. We could contact the humans, Cathar suggested. Warn them. Perhaps they have ships nearby that can help. Selvin, who had been silent until now, made a sound like crystal chiming. I suspect we are about to see what Director Chen meant when she said they could defend themselves. The pilot looked up from her console. Ambassador, I am picking up new contacts. Human vessels emerging from... Where did they come from? They were not there a moment ago. Show me, Jakral demanded. The view screen changed to show the tactical situation at the mining colony. 3 large Vex warships had taken up threatening positions around a small human facility built into an asteroid. But now 5 human ships were arranging themselves in a defensive formation between the Vex and the colony. They appeared out of nowhere, the pilot said with disbelief. No jump signature. No warning. They just appeared. They're faster than light technology, Pelmy breathed. They can jump directly to any point in space without using a jump gate. They do not need the infrastructure we require. On screen, a new transmission began. A human woman in a military uniform appeared. She looked calm, almost bored. Vex Commander, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Human Defense Fleet. You are in human-protected space. Leave now or we will remove you. The delegation watched in silence as the Vex Commander's image appeared beside hers. He was laughing. 5 small ships against 3 Vex cruisers? You're either brave or stupid, human. We do not want to kill you, but we will if we must. Leave now and we will forget this happened. Captain Santos smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal. After that, you become a threat to human civilians and we will respond accordingly. Absurd. The Vex commander cut the transmission. This is about to become a disaster, Jakral said. Vex cruisers are among the most powerful warships in the Council fleet. Those human ships are less than half their size. Should we intervene? Cathar asked. How? We are hours away and this is a civilian vessel. We have no weapons. On the tactical display, the 30 seconds expired. The Vex ships began moving toward the colony, weapons powering up. The human ships held position. Then everything happened at once. The human ships moved like nothing the delegation had ever seen. They did not accelerate gradually like normal vessels. They jumped. Short controlled bursts of their faster-than-light drives that let them change position in an instant. One moment they were in defensive formation. The next they were scattered around the Vex ships attacking from multiple angles. "That is not possible," Commander Vrick said, leaning forward. "Drives for faster-than-light travel cannot be used in combat. The calculations take too long and the stress would tear a ship apart." "Human ships can," Pelmy said, her datapad recording everything. "Look at their design. They are built around the faster-than-light drive, not the other way around. Every system is designed to handle the stress of rapid jumping. The Vex ships fired, but the humans were already gone, appearing somewhere else. Firing, then jumping again. Their weapons were different too. Not the heavy energy cannons the Council used, but fast, precise beams that struck critical systems. They are not trying to destroy the Vex ships," Commander Vrix observed with professional interest. "They are disabling them, targeting engines, weapons, communications, surgical strikes." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 3 minutes. The 3 Vex cruisers hung dead in space, their engines offline, their weapons neutralized. The human ships reformed their defensive position around the colony. Captain Santos reappeared on the open channel. "Vex vessels, you are disabled but intact. We are sending shuttles to evacuate your crews. You will be transported to the nearest Council station and released. Your ships will be towed to neutral space and left there. Consider this a lesson about respecting human territory." The Vex commander appeared on screen, and his expression had changed from arrogance to shock. "How? Our ships are the finest in the Council fleet. How did you do that?" "We have been preparing for this kind of situation for 200 years, Santos said calmly. "We are not looking for fights, but we are ready for them. Next time, maybe you will think twice before threatening civilians." The delegation's ship maintained its course toward the scene. By the time they arrived, the Vex crews had been evacuated, and the disabled warships were being towed by human vessels. The colony itself was undamaged. "Request permission to dock at the human colony," Shakral said quietly. His scales had settled into a muted gray that indicated deep thought. Permission was granted. They docked at the small facility, which was barely large enough to accommodate their ship. A human was waiting for them, a young man with dark hair and a friendly smile. "Welcome to New Vancouver. I am Administrator Park. You are the Council delegation, yes? Captain Santos said you were in the area." "Administrator," Shakral said, "I must apologize on behalf of the Vex Dominion. That attack was unauthorized and illegal. Those commanders will face consequences." "No harm done," Park said with a shrug. "They did not hurt anyone and their crews are fine. We will send them back to you once we reach a Council station." "You are not angry?" "Why would we be angry? We knew this might happen eventually. Some species see our independence as weakness. We made sure we could prove them wrong." Commander Vrick stepped forward. "Your tactics were impressive. Your ships, your weapons, your coordination. You fought like a species that has seen 1,000 battles." "We have never fought a real battle," Park admitted, "but we have run a lot of simulations. We believe in being prepared." "But how?" Pelmy asked. "Your ships are so small." "Yet they defeated vessels 3 times their size. Because we designed them for our needs, not to match someone else's standards. Vex ships are built to fight other Council vessels in traditional engagements. Our ships are built to use our faster-than-light advantage and strike fast. Different approaches for different situations." Selvine moved closer to Administrator Park. Despite her age and crystalline form, she managed to convey curiosity. "Tell me, young human, were you afraid?" "Terrified," Park said honestly. "This is a mining colony. We have 300 people here, including children. The idea of those warships attacking us was scary. But we trust our defense fleet and they came through for us. You did not call for Council help. Why would we? They are not responsible for our protection. We are." Cathar made a thoughtful gesture. "You truly have built a complete civilization. Defense, trade, governance, everything. You do not need the Council for anything." "We do not need them," Park agreed. "But that does not mean we dislike them. If the Council wants to trade with us, talk with us, we are happy to do so. We just do not want to join their organization." "Because you do not need permission to exist," Selvine said softly. "Exactly." They returned to their ship after brief farewells. The journey back to Council space continued in silence for several hours. Each member of the delegation was lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Jakrel spoke. "I was wrong. I thought humanity was arrogant and naive. I thought they did not understand the dangers of the galaxy." "And now," Cathar asked, Now I think they understand perfectly. They just refuse to let fear control them. They built the civilization they wanted, and they made themselves strong enough to protect it. Commander Vrix was reviewing the tactical data from the battle. I need to revise everything I know about combat doctrine. What the humans did should not be possible, but they did it anyway. Because they did not know it was impossible, Pelmy suggested. They were not constrained by Council military doctrine. They invented their own approach from scratch. Or, Selvine said, they knew it was possible, and they refused to accept anyone telling them it was not. The conversation drifted to silence again. Outside the viewports, the stars moved past, ancient and unchanging. What will you tell the Council? Cathar finally asked Jakrel. The ambassador's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep blue that indicated acceptance. The truth. That humanity does not need us. That they have built a successful civilization without our help. That they can defend themselves without our protection. That they have everything they need because they worked for it themselves. The Council will not like that, Commander Vrix observed. No, Jakrel agreed. They will not. Because it forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. If humanity does not need us, then what does the Council actually provide? What is our purpose if not to guide and protect young species? Perhaps, Selvine said quietly, the Council's purpose was never to guide and protect. Perhaps it was always just to provide a place for species to gather and talk. Everything else, all the structure and requirements and evaluation periods, perhaps that was just us trying to make ourselves seem more important than we are. You are saying the Council is unnecessary? Jakrel asked. No. I am saying the Council is not as necessary as we have always believed. There is a difference. They discussed it for hours as the ship carried them back toward Council space. By the time they arrived at the jump gate, they had reached a conclusion, though not everyone was happy with it. Humanity had proven something important. They had proven that the Council's way was not the only way. That species could reach the stars and thrive without needing validation from ancient institutions. That independence was not the same as isolation. Most importantly, they had proven that the empty seat in the Council chamber did not represent failure or arrogance. It represented choice, and that was the most terrifying thing of all, because if humanity could choose to walk away, then maybe other species could too. Maybe the Council existed not because it was necessary, but because no one had ever questioned whether they needed it. Until now, the delegation ship passed through the jump gate, leaving human space behind. But the questions they carried with them would not be so easy to leave behind. Those questions would follow them all the way back to the Council chamber. And once asked, questions like that are very hard to ignore. The Council chamber felt different when the delegation returned. The golden light seemed harsher, the ancient walls more oppressive. Or perhaps it was just that they were seeing it with new eyes. 500 representatives filled their seats, waiting to hear the report. The empty seat labeled Earth sat among them, as it had for 2 centuries. A silent reminder of the species that had said no. Ambassador Jakrel stood at the speaker's platform. His scales were a neutral gray, carefully controlled. He had spent 3 days preparing this report, writing and rewriting, trying to find words that would convey what he had learned. Honored members of the Galactic Council, he began. His voice carried through the chamber, amplified by ancient technology. The delegation has returned from human space. We have met with human leadership. We have toured their facilities. We have witnessed their capabilities. And we have come to some difficult conclusions. A murmur ran through the chamber. Representatives leaned forward, eager to hear about the strange species that had rejected them. Humanity does not need us, Jakrel said simply. That is the first and most important conclusion. They have built a thriving civilization of over 300 colonies. Their technology is equal to ours in most ways, superior in some. They have established trade relations with dozens of species. They can defend themselves against military threats. They are completely self-sufficient. Then they are fools, Representative Talora called out. They isolate themselves from the greatest civilization in galactic history out of pride. They are not isolated, Cathar said, rising from his seat. They trade freely with many species. They welcome visitors to their stations. They collaborate with alien researchers. They simply do not want formal membership in the Council. Why not? Talora demanded. Because they see no benefit to it. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other, some angry, some confused, all disturbed by this news. Shukral let them talk for a moment before raising his hand for silence. Please let me finish the report. There is more you need to understand. The noise died down, though the tension remained. We witnessed a military engagement, Shukral continued. His voice was heavy with shame. 3 Vex warships operating without authorization attempted to seize a human mining colony. 5 human defense ships responded. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. The Vex ships were completely disabled without a single casualty on either side. Silence fell like a weight. Commander Vrick stood, his large armored form commanding attention. The human ships used tactics we have never seen, he said. They used their faster-than-light drives as weapons, jumping in and out of combat range faster than our sensors could track. Their weapons were designed for precision, not destruction. They fought like a species with centuries of military experience, yet this was their first real engagement. How is that possible? Representative Felnon of the military committee asked. Preparation, training, and a completely different approach to ship design and combat doctrine. They did not copy our methods. They invented their own. Scholar Pelmy rose next, her large eyes sweeping the chamber. I analyzed their technology extensively. It is not primitive or inferior. It is simply different. They developed it independently, without access to council databases or council guidance. In some areas, particularly in adaptive systems and modular design, they have surpassed us. The chamber was quiet now, representatives absorbing this information. I do not understand, Representative Telora said, her voice smaller now. Every species needs the council. We provide structure, wisdom, protection. How can they not need us? Elder Matriarch Selavine rose slowly from her seat. The light moved with her, creating patterns that drew every eye. Because Representative Telora, they never believed they needed us in the first place. And that belief has made all the difference. She moved to the center of the chamber, her crystalline form reflecting the golden light in 1,000 directions. I have served this council for 3,000 years. I have watched 400 species join us. Every single one came seeking something. The Zenthi sought protection from aggressive neighbors. The Qualics sought access to advanced technology. The Vex sought legitimacy and status among the stars. Every species came to us because they believed they were incomplete without us. She gestured to the empty seat. Humanity is the first species to look at what we offer and decide they are already complete. They did not come to us seeking validation, because they do not believe we have the authority to validate them. They exist, therefore they are legitimate. They thrive, therefore they are successful. They need no one's permission for either. That is arrogance, someone called from the upper tiers, is it? Selvine's voice was gentle but firm. Or is it confidence? Is it arrogance to say I can do this myself when you have proven that you can? Is it arrogance to decline help you do not need? Shukral spoke again. The humans asked me a question that I could not answer. They asked what council membership would give them that they do not already have. I listed benefits: access to jump gates, military protection, technology exchange, trade agreements. And they pointed out that they have their own faster-than-light drives, their own defense fleet, their own technology, and their own trade partners. What about wisdom? Representative Canal asked. What about the accumulated knowledge of 10,000 years? They are learning on their own, Pelmy said, making their own mistakes and discovering their own solutions. They value that process more than they value shortcuts. They are reinventing wheels that have already been invented, Canal protested. Perhaps, Selvine said. But they are their wheels, built for their needs in their way on their terms, and that matters to them more than efficiency. A new voice spoke up, deep and resonant. It was Elder Korthan of the Thexian Armada, one of the oldest members of the Council after Selvine. I think I understand what troubles us. It is not that humanity has rejected us. It is that their rejection forces us to question ourselves. Every eye turned to him. For 10,000 years we have told ourselves a story. We have said that the Council is essential to galactic civilization, that young species need our guidance, that we are the light that leads them to the stars. But humanity has shown us that this story is not entirely true. They reached the stars without us. They built a civilization without us. They learned to thrive without us. If they do not need us, then perhaps no one ever really did. That is not true, several representatives protested at once. Is it not? Korthan's voice was sad. Look at our own histories. My species, the Thexians, achieved faster than light travel on our own. We had already established 12 colonies before we encountered the Council. We joined not because we needed help reaching the stars, but because we were afraid of facing the galaxy alone. The Council offered safety in numbers, and we accepted. He paused. But we could have continued alone, could we not? Like the humans are doing now. We chose not to because we valued the community the Council offered. But it was a choice, not a necessity. We have pretended otherwise for so long that we forgot the difference. Jakrel felt something shift in his understanding. You are saying the Council does not uplift species. We simply offer them a place to belong. Yes, and there is value in that. Community has worth. Shared knowledge has worth. The bonds between species have worth. But these things are not the same as being necessary for survival. The Council is beneficial, not essential. There is a difference. Representative Talora stood again. Then what do we do about humanity? Do we simply accept their rejection? What else can we do? Cathar asked. Force them to join? Invade their space? Sanction them for the crime of being self-sufficient? They have done nothing wrong. They have harmed no one. They simply do not want what we are offering. We could remove their seat, someone suggested. Make it official that they are not welcome. No, Selvin said firmly. That would be petty and vindictive. Worse, it would prove to everyone that we value our pride more than we value truth. Then what do we do? Selvin looked at the empty seat for a long moment. We leave it empty. But we change what it represents? I do not understand, Jakrel said. For 200 years, that seat has been a symbol of humanity's rejection, a reminder that they said no to us. But what if we make it a symbol of something else? What if we make it a reminder that the Council exists to serve its members? Not the other way around. She moved closer to the empty seat, her crystalline hand hovering over it. Let this seat remain empty as a standing invitation. Humanity is welcome here whenever they choose to come, with no conditions, no evaluation periods, no requirements. They may attend as guests, as observers, as full members if they ever decide they want that. But the choice is entirely theirs. That is too generous, someone protested. Is it, or is it simply respectful? They have built a civilization that equals ours. They have proven they can stand on their own. Why should we demand that they bow before us to earn recognition they do not need? Jakrel found himself nodding. The elder matriarch is right. If we punish humanity for their independence, we prove that we value control more than cooperation. If we respect their choice, we prove that the Council can adapt and grow. But what about other species? Talora asked. What if others see humanity's example and decide to leave the Council? Then perhaps they should, Korthan said quietly. If they can thrive without us, if they would be happier outside our structure, then why should we force them to stay? Are we a community or a prison? The chamber fell silent again. It was a question that cut to the heart of everything the Council believed about itself. Selvin spoke into the silence. I propose a new interpretation of the empty seat. Let it stand as a reminder that membership in the Galactic Council is a choice, not an obligation. That species are free to join, free to leave, and free to exist independently if that is what serves them best. Let it remind us that we must continually prove our worth to our members, not demand that they prove their worth to us. I second this proposal, Jakrel said. His scales had shifted to a lighter color now, something approaching peace. As do I, Cathar added. One by one, other voices joined. Not all of them, not even most at first, but enough. Enough to carry the vote when it was called. The empty seat would remain, but its meaning had changed. 3 weeks later, a message arrived at New Singapore Station. Director Chen Wei read it in her small office, surrounded by the usual chaos of station administration. The message was from the Galactic Council. It informed her that Earth's seat would remain reserved with no conditions attached. Humanity was welcome at the Council chambers as observers, guests, or full members, whenever they chose. There would be no evaluation period, no requirements, no demands. The invitation was open always. Chen read the message twice, then smiled. It was a nice gesture, she thought. A sign that the Council was starting to understand. She drafted a polite reply, thanking them for the invitation and acknowledging that humanity might take them up on it someday, when they were ready, when they saw a reason to. But not today. Today there were supplies to order, ships to schedule, and a report from the colonial administration about a new colony that wanted to try something experimental with their agriculture. There was work to do, lives to build, problems to solve. Chen filed the council's message in her archives and moved on to the next task. The universe was vast and there was so much to explore, so much to learn, so much to build. They did not need permission for any of it. They never had. Light years away in the ancient council chamber, the golden light continued to shine. The representatives came and went, debating policies and settling disputes and maintaining the structure of galactic civilization. And in the circles of seats one remained empty. But it was no longer a symbol of rejection or arrogance. It was a reminder. A reminder that species reached the stars on their own power, that they built civilizations through their own effort. That community was a choice, not a requirement. That respect was earned, not granted. Elder matriarch Selvine sat in her seat, ancient and patient, and looked at the empty chair with something that might have been satisfaction. In 3,000 years, the council had learned many things, but this might be the most important lesson yet. That being needed was not the same as being necessary. That being wanted was better than being required. That the greatest gift you could give another being was the freedom to walk away, and if they chose to stay despite that freedom, then you knew it was real. Humanity had walked away. They had built their own path to the stars. They had created something beautiful and strong and entirely their own. The empty seat would wait for them for as long as it took, and if they never came, that would be all right too. Because they had already proven everything that needed proving. They had proven that they were enough. All by themselves. The universe was vast and filled with possibility. Humanity had reached out and grasped it with both hands, not asking for permission, not waiting for approval. They had simply decided they belonged among the stars. And in that decision, in that moment of pure confidence and determination, they had shown the entire galaxy something profound. That belonging was not something granted by others. It was something you claimed for yourself. And once claimed, no one could ever take it away.
The Council of the Stars had ruled the galaxy for 17,000 years. 12 ancient species sat at its head, and they called themselves the Elder Races. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched young species crawl out of their primitive worlds and reach for the stars. And they had decided long ago that the galaxy needed order. It needed guidance. It needed them dot from their great station at Nexus Prime. They watched everything. Their sensors stretched across thousands of light years. Their patrol fleets moved through every major trade route. Nothing happened in the Orion Arm without their knowledge. Nothing changed without their permission dot. So when the sensors detected something strange, coming from an unremarkable yellow star in a quiet corner of the galaxy, the Council paid attention. The star was called Sol by the creatures who lived on the third planet orbiting it. The planet was called Earth, and the creatures who lived there called themselves Humans. High Observer Kalmuth of the Etherian Concordat was the first to study the readings. He was old, even by the standards of his ancient species. His body was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer like starlight. He had watched over 100 species make their first steps into space. He knew the patterns. He knew what to expect, that these readings did not match the patterns. "This cannot be correct," he said to his assistant. "Run the analysis again." The assistant, a young Etherian named Thielvan, did as she was told. The results came back the same. "High Observer," she said, her voice careful. "The readings are accurate. The species on this planet has achieved faster than light travel." Kalmuth stared at the data for a long moment. "How old is their technological civilization?" "Approximately 400 years, High Observer." "Perhaps less. Impossible." But it was not impossible. It was simply unprecedented. Most species took 10,000 years to develop FDL technology. Some took 20,000. The fastest on record had done it in 6,000 years, and they had been considered a miracle. 400 years was not a miracle. It was an anomaly, and anomalies made the Council nervous. Kalmuth turned to his assistant. "Send word to the Council chambers. We have a rapid ascension anomaly. Classification Priority 1. Thielvan's eyes widened. She knew what that classification meant. In 17,000 years, there had been only 11 species to receive it. 6 of those species no longer existed. The Council had deemed them too dangerous to be allowed to grow. At once, "I observer," she said, and hurried to send the message. Within hours, the 12 elder races had assembled in the great chamber of stars. The chamber was a vast dome at the heart of Nexus Prime, large enough to hold a small city. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star maps and sensor data. At the center, 12 thrones arranged in a circle held the representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Speaker Varan of the Lithari spoke first. His body was made of living crystal, and his voice sounded like stones grinding together. "We have reviewed the data. The humans present a potential threat to galactic stability." "Potential threat?" Warlord Syphax of the Krethian Empire let out a harsh laugh. His scales were the color of dried blood, and his teeth were sharp enough to tear through metal. "They are insects. Their planet is small. Their population is limited. They pose no threat to anyone." The Krethians said the same about the Velthari. Ambassador Seelan of the Aquari reminded him. Her voice was soft, like water flowing over stones. "The Velthari destroyed 3 of your colony worlds before they were stopped." Syphax growled but said nothing. The memory of the Velthari was still a fresh wound to his people. High Observer Kelmuth raised a hand for silence. "The question is not whether the humans are a threat today. The question is what they might become tomorrow. They have achieved in 4 centuries what takes other species 10,000 years. If this rate of advancement continues, they will surpass us all within a single millennium." The chamber fell silent. 1,000 years was nothing to the elder races. Some of them had lived longer than that. But the idea that a young, primitive species could surpass them in such a short time was deeply troubling. "We must send an envoy," said Minkeeper Oryx of the Veshan Collective. His voice echoed strangely, as if many people were speaking at once. "We must assess them directly, learn their nature, understand their intentions." "And if their intentions are hostile?" Syphax asked. "Then we deal with them as we have dealt with others," Kelmuth replied. His voice was calm, but there was something cold beneath it. "The guided development protocol exists for a reason. Some species are simply too dangerous to be left to their own devices." The vote was unanimous. An envoy would be sent to Earth. The humans would be observed, evaluated, and judged. If they were found worthy, they would be welcomed into the galactic community. If not, the Council would take appropriate measures. Ambassador Thalvan was chosen for the mission. She was young, intelligent, and had a gift for understanding alien minds. She was also expendable, though no one said this out loud. If the humans proved hostile, her death would provide justification for stronger action. Her ship, the Starlight Whisper, left Nexus Prime the following day. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks at maximum FTL speed. During that time, Thalvan studied everything the Council knew about humanity. It was not much. Long-range sensors could detect their ships and their communications, but the details were limited. What she could see was troubling. The humans had fought many wars among themselves. Their history was filled with violence and conflict. They had developed weapons of mass destruction and had actually used them against their own kind. By any standard the Council used, they should have destroyed themselves long ago. But they had not. Somehow, despite everything, they had survived. They had united, and they had reached the stars. When the Starlight Whisper entered the Sol system, Thalvan was met by a human vessel. It was small and crude by galactic standards, with visible seams in its hull and engines that burned far too bright. But it moved with confidence, and its pilot's voice was calm when he hailed her. "Unknown vessel, this is the United Earth Coalition ship Horizon. Please state your identity and intentions." Thielvan activated her translator and spoke carefully. I am Ambassador Thielvan of the Etherian Concordat, representing the Council of the Stars. I come in peace, seeking to establish contact with your species. There was a long pause. Then the human pilot spoke again. Please hold your position, Ambassador. We're sending word to Earth Command. Someone will be with you shortly. Thielvan waited. She expected panic, confusion, perhaps fear. First contact with an alien species was usually a momentous occasion for young civilizations. Some species took years to accept the reality of life beyond their world. The humans took 6 hours. A new ship appeared larger than the first, but still small by Council standards. It was called the Prometheus, and its captain was a woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Admiral Helena Vasquez, and she greeted Thielvan with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Ambassador, welcome to our solar system. I've been authorized to escort you to Earth and facilitate your meeting with our leaders. Please follow my ship. Thielvan studied the Admiral through the viewscreen. There was something in the human's posture that seemed wrong. She did not look like someone experiencing first contact. She looked like someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Thank you, Admiral, Thielvan said. I look forward to meeting your people. The journey to Earth took only a few hours. As they approached the planet, Thielvan saw more human ships, dozens of them, orbiting the planet and moving between the various stations and habitats that surrounded it. Their technology was clearly inferior to anything the Council possessed, but there were far more ships than she had expected. She landed at a facility on the planet's surface, in a region the humans called Geneva. She was met by a delegation of human officials, led by a man named Ambassador David Chun. He was older than Admiral Vasquez, with gray in his hair and lines on his face, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Ambassador Thielvan, he said, bowing slightly. On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, welcome to our world. We are honored by your visit. The greeting was perfect, polite, formal, exactly what diplomatic protocol required. Too perfect, Thielvan thought, as if they had practiced it many times. Thank you, Ambassador Chun, she replied. The Council of the Stars has long observed your species with interest. Your rapid advancement has impressed many among the elder races. We have worked hard, Chun said. Humanity has a talent for solving problems quickly when we put our minds to it. Thielvan spent the next several weeks on Earth. She met with human leaders, scientists, and military commanders. She toured their cities, their factories, and their research facilities. She asked many questions, and the humans answered them all with perfect courtesy. But something felt wrong. The humans were too calm, too prepared. First contact should have been a shock to their civilization, but they acted as if it was simply another diplomatic visit. Their leaders knew exactly what questions to expect. Their scientists had explanations ready for every inquiry. Their military commanders spoke openly about their weapons and defenses, showing off their fusion reactors and their ballistic missiles with an almost theatrical pride. It was, Thielvan realized, a performance. They were showing her exactly what they wanted her to see. Nothing more, nothing less. She tried to dig deeper. She requested access to classified facilities and restricted documents. The humans politely refused, citing security concerns. She asked about rumored research programs and secret projects. The humans smiled and said they had no idea what she was talking about. Admiral Vasquez was her constant companion during these visits. The woman was unfailingly polite, always helpful, and absolutely impenetrable. Thielvan had spent her entire career reading alien minds, understanding alien cultures. But Vasquez gave nothing away. Her smiles were walls. Her courtesy was armor. On her final day on Earth, Thielvan met with Ambassador Chun one last time. I must return to Nexus Prime and make my report to the Council, she said. They will wish to know my assessment of your species. Chun nodded. And what will you tell them? Thialvan hesitated. She knew what she should say. The humans were primitive. Their technology was crude. They posed no threat to the Council or to galactic stability. That was what the data showed. That was what she had seen. But that was not what she felt. I will tell them that humanity is a remarkable species, she said carefully. You have achieved much in a short time. The Council will be very interested in your potential. Chen's smile was thin. I'm sure they will. The Starlight Whisper departed Earth the following morning. As Thialvan watched the blue planet shrink in her view screen, she could not shake the feeling that she had missed something important. The humans were hiding something. She was certain of it. But she had no proof, no evidence, nothing to show the Council. She would have to hope that her suspicions were wrong. The Council received her report 3 weeks later. She told them everything she had observed. The human technology, their social structures, their military capabilities. She described their history of warfare and their capacity for violence. And she shared her concerns, her sense that the humans were not as simple as they appeared. High Observer Kelmoth listened in silence. When she finished, he nodded slowly. Your observations are noted, Ambassador. But your concerns are based on feelings, not facts. The evidence suggests that humanity is a typical young species, aggressive, perhaps, but limited in their capabilities. They are not a threat to us. But High Observer, the Council has already reached its decision, Kelmoth interrupted. Humanity will be summoned to Nexus Prime for formal evaluation. We will assess their fitness for membership in the galactic community, and we will take appropriate action based on our findings. Thialvan bowed her head. As the Council wishes. The summons was sent to Earth the following day. It was framed as an invitation, a great honor for a young species. But everyone who read it